Hello, my name is Freddie and today you are listening to the Young Progressive Podcast. The general election is upon us. We've got 1 month and 1 day to learn, to prepare, to campaign, and if you are over 18, to vote for the next government. So, during this election, I know I haven't done many in the last 2 months, so I'm going to be making lots and lots of videos. First of all, campaigning for a Labour Party led by Jeremy Corbyn, which promises a more equal society, a better country, and a nation which works for the many and not the few. And also, I will be campaigning against a Tory party which has performed pernicious cuts to our public services and has devastated this country during the last 9 years. So, let's get on to the video. Today, I will be launching my first of the 2 campaign series, and it will be called Why to Vote Against the Tory Party. Today, I'll be starting my first reason to vote against the Tory Party, and this is the NHS. During the last 10 years, well, almost 10 years, the Tories have made massive cuts to our NHS. From hospitals to doctors and nurses, to equipment, to surgeries, to mental health, to social care. They've done it all. The Tories have made huge, swinging, substantial cuts which have had a terrible effect on Britain's greatest asset, the NHS. The Tories have sold parts of our NHS to private health companies, like the ones in America, which charge huge rates for the healthcare we all deserve and is an inherent human right, which comes as a part of living in Britain. If you can't grasp how large these cuts are, I'm going to go to the stats. £40 billion, if you take inflation into account, has been cut from the NHS by the Tories. I know it's hard to understand how huge this amount is, but this could train 1 million nurses and 140,000 doctors. This money alone could do that. Completely reverse our staff recruitment crisis in the NHS. Give more doctors per person and greatly improve our health service. Or, with this £40 billion, we could build 60 whole hospitals all around the country. That is how huge this amount is. Or with the £40 billion the Tories have cut, we could treat 35,000 cancer patients for a whole year, each year, for 10 years. Something which we find very hard to afford and conduct properly. Furthermore, 6 billion of that 40 billion was cut from social care. Social care looks after people, elderly people, kids in need, people with mental health issues. That's what social care is, a caring aspect of the NHS which looks after people externally from the hospital. And also 600 million has been cut from mental health. Because of the substantial and egregious cuts performed by the Tory party, now 20 hospitals are on the brink of collapse. That could be hospitals all around you which save lives, give birth to babies, hand out cancer drugs, do vital operations every single day, and now on the brink of collapse because of the swinging cuts performed by the Tory party. Around 1,000 NHS England patients waited more than 12 hours in January on the trolley, compared to 17 in 2011. 4,000 urgent operations were cancelled last year, up 27% in 2 years. The NHS has chronic staff shortages because of its lack of money to train, recruit and pay salaries for the 100,000 staff it is missing. During the last 9 years, 150,000 cancer patients have waited over 2 months for life-saving treatment. 4 million people. 4 million people. 1/15 of the population. And now on hospital waiting lists. Waiting to have the appointment, surgery, the prescription, whatever else they need. And whilst mental health spending has been cut by 600 million, suicides have doubled amongst children since the Tories took power. Last year, 25,000 operations were cancelled as a result of the lack of funding. Hundreds of GP surgeries where people go to get diagnoses, prescriptions, and the important help they need have been shut, affecting over 1 million people. Furthermore, the 2017 NHS winter crisis was labelled a humanitarian crisis by Red Cross. A humanitarian crisis happening in one of the richest countries in the world because how much the government hate the NHS, how little they care about their citizens. Their winter crisis was labelled a humanitarian crisis. Mental health accounts for 28% of the overall disease burden, but only receives 13% of NHS funding. For the first time since World War II, life expectancy is going down in the poorest areas. And life expectancy is 9 years less in poorer areas in this country. All these facts are absolute travesties. These are disgusting things which have gone on in the NHS whilst the Tories had took power. The Tories were given the NHS by a Labour government which was in good hands, which was thriving, which was outperforming almost every other health service in the world. And during these 9 years, the Tories have absolutely devastated a once proud service which guaranteed healthcare for every member of the population. And every statistic you look at shows that NHS is going downhill. People are dying every single day because the NHS is losing more and more and more money, and it is corrupt. The previous Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, co-authored the book on how to privatise the NHS whilst privatisation doubled. That is a goal, that is a motive of the Tories, to privatise the NHS and run it into the ground before they do, so they've got an excuse to do it. Our own Prime Minister, who is running to be re-elected, Boris Johnson, said the people would appreciate the NHS more if they paid for it. And more than ever, complete NHS privatisation could be possible as a result of a post-Brexit British-American trade deal. And if you take lightly or shrug off the idea of the NHS being privatised, look at this picture. This is a bill in America because of their private healthcare system. Finally, and this is the saddest stat of all, the most devastating statistic of all, and the most infuriating statistic of all, the British Medical Journal have repeated and have reported that social care cuts and NHS cuts and other forms of austerity have caused 120,000 extra deaths. As a result of the Tories' reckless, heartless and evil cuts to the NHS, 120,000 extra aunts, uncles, mothers, fathers, grandparents, children, brothers, sisters, role models, husbands, wives have died because of the cuts performed by the Tories. It's atrocious, it's horrible, and it really makes me ashamed of our country, knowing that we've got a government which have cold-bloodedly and cold-heartedly killed people as they have been told that the cuts they have made to the NHS would be devastating. This just shows that we should never, ever, ever elect the Tory party again. They have killed, and knowingly killed, 120,000 people just to make cuts to the NHS so they can gift their rich friends money in tax cuts. It's a travesty, and that is why we need to get the Tories out. We cannot trust them with our NHS. It has been run into the ground, making the population of this country suffer and making 120,000 citizens of this country die. If you care about the NHS, our greatest service, which gives us care from cradle to grave, don't vote Tory and vote against Tory in the general election, because they will continue to run the NHS into the ground, privatise it, and turn their heads to the deaths which their pernicious actions have caused. If you care about the NHS, if you care about the people that have died, and if you want a better Britain, please vote against Tories in the election 2019.